Buenos dias. Welcome to Spain. How are you, Tanya?
I'm good. Sort of.
Sort of. Is this an Spain? Are you trying to tell me you have an Spain for me?
I do have an Spain, and it's a little both. It's good and bad. Well, not bad. It's good
Okay.
and not what we expected. So we had what we decided to do because it's the end of summer, and the weather does kind of drop in September, like as soon as the kids go to school, where we'll have hot days, but it's not so beachy weathery, you know?
Right.
So we've been,
There's.
go ahead.
Can I just say something? Because I noticed this one. I hate to go on a tangent so quick into our conversation.
Go on,
But I
interrupt
was
it.
noticing yesterday as I was walking around this city, sweating my
Yes.
brains out, that there was a chill to the 87 degrees. There literally is
Right?
a chill to the
Yeah.
87. It's not the same 87 from 2 weeks ago. You're like, this feels chilly. But I'm sweating and dying, but it's not the same.
Right.
Go
And
on.
that is
Proceed.
exactly what I'm talking about, whereas it becomes less beach weather because that what comes along with that is this cooler weather and also possibly a little bit more wind, and nobody wants wind at the beach because that's sand everywhere. So we were kind of like, hey, last Saturday morning, me and my friend have been going paddleboarding. We paddleboard, and then the kids and we just hang out, and everyone just has a nice time, and we just leave whenever, and it's really nice because it's getting to the end of August and it was delightful. So we're now in September. We're like, let's do one last beach hang before school. And so we take our paddle boards, the kids, we're all going down there. My friend and I go out and to go paddle boarding. We're paddling out. We're not so great that we can stay on the board all the time. Okay. We haven't quite reached that
Okay.
level. We're
Okay.
jealous of those people that just like jump on the board and just paddle out. And we're like, who are you? When will we be those people? So we might fall in every now and again. And we get up there, and both of us had fallen in just kind of getting up the first time. And then we look down, and there's jellyfish everywhere.
Oh
And
my God.
and I'm like, I like,
Was it
okay.
like Finding Nemo? Was it like Finding Nemo? They're
So if
just
anybody
everywhere?
wants to look them up, they're affectionately called fried egg jellyfish. But let me
Okay.
tell you, they're probably like 10, 12 inches like in diameter. They're huge. They're not these tiny little things. And then they're like also traveling in packs. And I'm like, I don't know enough about marine animals at all to know what jellyfish will sting you and what won't and like all this stuff. I just don't know. So I'm terrified.
Right.
I don't want to fall into what's a pack of jellyfish? A murder of jellyfish or whatever it is you call a bunch of
I think that's
jellyfish.
gross.
A flock of jellyfish. I don't know. Please let us know what they're called. So, I'm just like, oh my God, this totally ruined like the whole like reason that we got up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to the beach when the water would be a bit smoother and do all this thing. But we come back in.
Wait, so were you in the? You were on the water.
Oh
and then
yeah,
they
we were
all
on the
around
water
you?
at that point, and I'm
Okay.
like, I'm gonna fall in because I don't want to fall in. And I don't want to fall into
Right.
a whole bunch of jellyfish. So we sort of are like, this isn't. We're fair weather paddle boarders. I don't need to be out there with a bunch of jellyfish. That's not really my thing. So we paddle
Right.
back in, and then we start looking up the jellyfish, and we find out that actually they're not that stingy, but you don't want to be on the underneath of them because they will kind of give you a little bit of a, like from a nestle or something, like a little bit of a sting, which of course is if you fall into a bunch of them, that's what you're going to get. And I'm like, that's not what I want this morning. So we stay out. And of course the kids at that point are like, oh, this is fun. Let's go out and look at them. So the kids get on the boards and they go out and they go look at them, and so we're having a wonderful Saturday morning before school, and we hung out at the beach, but I did not go back in the water, I will say.
Okay, I wouldn't either.
No, and I do think there are apps for that. So I need to download the apps for next summer and make sure
Is
I
there
know.
a jellyfish reporting app?
I
Is
think
there
so.
a-
I think the apps that do the wind and the temperature of the water and all the things that people that like surfing and that type of thing do, like, those apps will also, because I do think the jellyfish come in sort of waves and then they go out. Like they're not here all the time. Let's put it that way.
I don't know,
No.
but now I know.
I know more about it
Not
than I
to
did. But I don't. That's my Spain. We had a wonderful time at the beach. We had a wonderful morning of hanging out, and everyone was sort of just enjoying themselves. But the jellyfish were an uninvited guest.
So I think this kind of leads us into our episode, because if you're coming from Iowa, this might be one thing you need to know before you move to
Right.
somewhere like Valencia, Spain, where you don't have jellyfish. We have jellyfish here, so that'll be our first
We
thing of
but not often.
what.
I'm going to be saying I haven't seen them that often, so I don't want to scare people. That was definitely a one-off. But yeah, the 10 things to
Okay.
do before you move.
It's this
Download apps.
download apps.
I mean, there's a lot of things to do that you need to get done. So we're going to sort of talk a little bit about just basic things. And I think the first thing, we're not going to tell you how to get your visa and your paperwork sorted, but we do have some advice on things that kind of need to follow a plan to make sure you
Right.
have them in your schedule in the right place, right?
Right. Like what to kind of like mentally prepare you so you can go out and hunt and find the resources, and all this stuff is always changing. So I mean, if we did tell you all the how-tos, it's not going to mean anything in 3
It would be
months
different
time.
tomorrow.
So I guess we're going to start with visas, because you need those to get here.
You do. We're not going to tell you how to do it, but some advice.
Right. We're not going to tell you how to do it, because it will change, but some things do not change, which is an apostle. And if you've never gone through this process, an apostle is a government double certification. So
And it's called a Hague
your birth,
Apostle. A Hague Apostle.
it's the Hague Apostle.
Yeah.
It's a worldwide kind of thing. So there's a process to it. And when you have a birth certificate, it needs to get apostle because it has a signature on it. There's other things you need to get notarized, and then that will have to be apostilled. And they're basically they're verifying that the signature on that document is a real signature. So even though your birth certificate might be certified and it's got a stamp from the county, this is from the governor's office saying this is what you need. And then some apostles in the America, the apostles will come from the states.
Yeah.
And then it's certifying that that signature actually does exist in their register of people who are allowed to sign. So that hospital signature is correct, or the notary signature is correct.
Yes, and it's not
And-
like this is not a mailbox, etc. type of situation. This will have to
No.
be done through a government office, like you said, the governor or something like that. And
It's usually the Department of State in each
Yeah.
in each state.
yeah, and it's
who
something
handles
that is, like you said, an internationally approved system that every country has a system that the other countries have agreed to abide by, to say that this
Right.
is true. So I never really fully understood why certain things needed to get redone, but they will. So check with whoever's helping you, or check the latest list of directions from the Spanish websites of what you need, because there will be a time frame which might be 3 months or 6 months for different documents. So one document might be 3 months, one document might be 6 months. But if that runs out, you will have to go back and get it done again. So if you come here and you're filing for a visa and you had your Hague Apostles done 6 months ago, they're all over. You have to go back and do them all again. So the recommendation that we have basically is get those at the last moment possible. I mean, don't run out of time to get them, but make them as new as possible when you leave, basically. From our point of view, we were doing residency. So we didn't do any paperwork in the States. We moved here with everything, and then we needed to file. So what we needed to do was have our paperwork done at the last minute possible there, so that we wouldn't have to go back and get it done when we were still in Spain. So we got it
Because
done.
you weren't coming here on a visa
No,
whatsoever.
we were doing
So-
residency.
So that meant you were doing all your paperwork here. Nothing happened in
Nothing
America?
happened there. Everything was happening
Gotcha.
here. So unfortunately for us, because of COVID, we did end up having to go back and get it done. It is not fun getting this stuff done in another country when you're not there. So,
Right.
figure out what it is that you need to be doing, and then make sure that when you're ready to file your stuff, that your paperwork isn't too old. These Hague Apostles aren't too old. So when you came over, you're filing everything here.
No, nothing gets filed
Nothing
here.
gets
so
filed
if you're
here.
coming over
Okay.
here on a visa, everything's happening in the United States. So it's like maybe we'll even do another episode more
Right.
long about the difference between visa and people who are EU citizens or EU resident, people are coming on a residency thing, because it is different. Because from the visa, I would suggest to everyone, every consulate's different in the United States, so you have to go to the consulate, because some of them will have different requirements of how old certain apostles can be. So, like in California, where in LA, at the time that I did this,
It's
so
probably
no one's tar and
changed.
feather me if it's all changed. The only thing that could be no older than 90 days was the criminal background check. So that was like the crazy one. But everything else was like 6 months, and before your appointment, like you had time to get that stuff in. But I worked within a 3 month time frame, so I knew nothing was going to
You
be
just kept
too
everything
long.
3 months. So tell me something. So were you given an appointment like ahead of time that you could then go get the Hague Apostles done, or did you get all your Hague Apostles done and then ask for an appointment and you kind of got it quite quickly? Like, what was the order that you did it? And I know this might be different for other people, and I know it's different for different consulates for sure.
So no, so this is one thing I think it's the same for all consulates. It's called praying for Jesus because there is no.
There was no thing.
So you are literally jumping into blind faith. There is you because the appointments at the consulates. It is. I would like to tell our listeners that this is a prelude, a precursor to your life in Spain of trying to get important appointments, the things that like you needed yesterday. There is no system, and it is, as you know, when you're trying to get your TIE appointments here, like
Yeah.
how do you do it? And there's you just one day it happens and you get it, but you'll search every day, 24 hours a day, and nothing. So it's the same with trying to get your appointments at the consulate. So you really are working backwards from the time you want to arrive in Spain, and then you're praying every day that it works out. So your arrival in Spain, your appointment can only be so many days before your arrival in Spain, right? It's got to be then because there's a time frame.
And you've given them that date, so theoretically they should give you an appointment somewhere
No,
before that
no,
date. No.
your this is all in your
Oh,
desk
that's
in
all
your
in your
mind.
head.
Spain
Okay.
knows. Yes, this is all in your head.
It's just
You're like,
between
I'd like
it's
to
just
move
between
to
you and the airline at this point.
right. So you've bought a ticket to move to Spain in July,
Okay.
July 5th. You're moving to Spain, and now only so many days before can your visa be approved. So I think it's like 3 months before your visa can be approved.
Okay.
So you have 90 days to like do that date, right? And then once your visa is approved, they put the date on it that you've put, and then you have 90 days after that. So you can have up to like 180 days, but your appointment can't be more than 90 days before you want to arrive.
Got it. So as far as getting
Okay.
the things apostled, you can sort of start doing that and getting that done ish
So you
before.
you think about 3 months, like if you for me, I was like I wanted like 3 months the appointment 3 months before the date we had already booked the tickets to move, because that was also like if there was any problem, I would have enough time to fix anything on the application and still
Right.
not lose the flight and the money for that. So do that, and then you work from that. So then 3 months before that, so you're really looking at 6 months before. That's when I started sending away for all my
There you
apostles.
go. Okay, that's the information
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. And then in if you're doing a residency, you have to just get all that stuff done get it all back as close before your flight that you come over as possible, because you're going to need that stuff here. And as you just said, you don't know when your appointments are going to be and when all these things are going to happen. So you really need
Right.
it. You don't want to be going in with all your Hague Apostle stuff 3 months old already, because now
Right.
it's already messed up.
It's already messed up, yeah. And so this is the thing, you don't want to go to your visa appointment, and really the criminal background check is the one that has caused most people the most headache. What I'd like to say also, and then I'll go into that, is so you have the date you would like your appointment to be, and then you work 3 months before that to start getting your, but really you want to start like 2 months before, because getting the appointment, they release them like there's no rhyme or reason, and you're just checking all the time, and there's all
Right.
these people think have these different ways they did it, and I was lucky to get one out of the blue after searching every day for 2 weeks and sweating, being like, oh, now I'm not going to get it this time, and all this other stuff is expired, and now I'm like, what am I going to do? It's really you got to pray, light candles, I don't know,
Right.
voodoo, whatever you do, just have all of that at your disposal.
Right,
So
right. That is so true.
oh, but let me just say one thing so I can get that tangent out of my head. The criminal background check is only can be 90 days old, and if you've lived in in the LA consulate at the time, and I've heard other consulates are different. Some want a full FBI check, and some consulates say just your state is fine. If you've lived in that state for 5 years or more, you only need that background check.
But you'll get that information from the consulate directly, so you don't have to guess that information, right?
Right, but the difference is if you're only dealing with your state, you'll get your criminal report back that day, and they'll send the letter within like a week, and it's like very quick. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have to get a national FBI one, be prepared. That takes many weeks to get.
Okay.
So
That's good to know.
That's where people are like, I'm not going to get this before my appointment even, right? That's kind of a stressor.
Right, right.
That's what I'd like to add. So be prepared and do your research on how to get the FBI and put that into your timeline before you start your timeline, so you can kind of figure out where that goes in your timeline.
Right.
And I said
There you
timeline a
go.
lot.
And along with paperwork, I think probably one of the easiest things to do is to get your healthcare sorted out before your private healthcare sorted out before you move. That's super, super easy. There's quite a few
Totally.
companies that do it. They know exactly what you need as far as coverage for your visa, and that's very easy to do from any other country. So
Right.
but that is something you also need to have sorted. So that goes along with all the visa paperwork stuff. So just remember to get that. That will not be a headache. That will be the easiest
It won't
part.
be, but there is something that people need to prepare for the visa people. You An insurance company will not give you insurance or a quote for more than 30 days out. So they won't give you like, oh, I'm moving in July, but my appointment's in April. I want it to start in July. It's going to start the latest they can do it is like May 1st. So you'll be paying for health insurance for months that you're
Yeah.
not using. And the health insurance is so cheap, but just put that in your time. Like also
Yeah.
put that in your register. You're going to have 1,600, 1,000, 3,000, depending on what your quote is and your family size, paid before you move and before your appointment, because
Yeah.
it has to show that it's paid for already.
That makes
before
sense.
that
Yeah, it needs to
appointment.
be already in place because they don't
Right.
want it that you then don't pay for it or something, and they're like, yeah, we have a promise. It's not working on a
Right, yeah.
promise.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that covers visa paperwork stuff since we started on the most stressful. Well, I don't know. I think some of it's very stressful. So I do want to also just say, as in regards to stress, it does all get sorted. So we're gonna go
It
through
does.
things, and we're just sort of giving our advice on how we did it. But it happens, and you go through, and at the end of the day, you end up in Spain eating tapas and having a nice time. So just keep that in mind, especially
Yes.
when you're downsizing and packing and purging all of your stuff, which I think was probably the most stressful part because you really have to go through your things and make
Go through your
decisions.
life.
Yeah.
Your whole history, and depending, I mean, I had 53 years, or no, I was 50 when I moved. I had 50 years of life to go through. You had
I did
just,
not.
I mean,
I've moved a lot that I don't get that attached to things. I mean, my husband will say that differently. I like to have things, but I
Right.
don't really necessarily have a problem saying, okay, yeah, I don't need this now. And we obviously decided not to move. We decided to move without any furniture, but still, we had a lot of things that we could have bought, and we
Right.
have to go through them. And especially when you have children as well, you're dealing with their emotions as well as yours. Now, we get attached to things,
Right.
but they're really attached to things in, I think, a
Right.
whole different way. And it's so I did like, I did a purge. And then I looked around and I was like, well, that's too much stuff to take.
Right.
So then I took a break and then I did another
And let's
purge.
remind our listeners, for people who are new, who have maybe been listening to this from the get-go, Tanya arrived with suitcases. She
Yes.
shipped nothing. So
We did not. We arrived with 12
and I
suitcases.
came with it. I
Yeah.
shipped stuff. So we have different
Very
takes
different. So
and-
I had to purge a whole lot more than most people do because we decided not to ship anything. And we just came with our 12 suitcases. So 3-4 of those were stuffed toys and things probably.
Right.
And the rest of it was like, we each get a bag and put your stuff in. We had enough. We had plenty of things as it turned out. But yeah, so I want to say 3 purges. I gave some of my more treasured belongings to friends so that they could stay sort of in my circle. And then we had in our area a Buy Nothing. Are you familiar with that on Facebook?
Yeah,
which I
that's
loved, but
yeah.
I mean, not every area has it. That's a great way to give away things that aren't maybe quite sellable, or things if you're trying to doing it a bit quicker. And then anything
or
that,
it needs to get done tonight, and you're just putting it out on the doorstep.
just putting it
and
out,
saying-
taking a picture, posting it free, and then obviously there's donations for things that aren't quite sellable but are still good enough for somebody to use, and then there's trash. So it's like every time I purged, I had these different piles, and then I just had to keep purging. I want to say 2, 3, 4 times until I got down to kind of what we were gonna have actually with us, and then by that point you're actually feeling quite like free and kind of like, well,
Right.
that's kind of cool. You're feeling quite proud
Yeah.
of yourself. So I think at that point I had a very good feeling about it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to move art. I'm attached to my artwork. It is a collection that I've been curating and stuff. So I mean, there's stuff I wanted to bring in. I did like kind of a cost, risk, loss, benefit
Right.
analysis kind of thing, and talked to moving companies. And then they were. And I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. It was like, how much is it per square or per cubic foot to move? And
Mm-hmm.
then I looked at all the stuff and I said it would cost me twice as much to replace it, so I might as well spend this much to move it.
Right.
And I probably overpaid a little bit for my moving, but I also did the white glove surface stuff where they packed it up and then unpacked it and took the boxes away, and I had to do nothing, and they handled all the paperwork. So for as a single parent of two moving across the world, to me it was worth probably paying an
Totally
extra
worth
three
it.
grand
Yeah.
for not having it, because I wouldn't have been able to then handle the paperwork and fill all that stuff out. And so that was easy breezy.
I'm not
But
sure
with you with the
anybody
purging,
wants to do that part, right? I mean, I think it probably would
no.
have been possible for you to pack and unpack, but to have them to pay them for the paperwork, I would imagine.
Right, well, they don't know what's in the boxes, so
So they
they
have
don't know.
to. Okay, so it's all or nothing in that regard then.
Kind of,
Okay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like, and the boxes can be miscellaneous house good kitchen stuff. It's not like itemizing
Yeah.
everything, but they handled all the customs. I didn't have to deal with anything. And I know a lot of shipping you pack, we ship, they handle that stuff too. I was just like, I need someone to like, I want to put it in a corner of the house, which I did. The corner of our house was the stuff that was going, and
Mm-hmm.
when they arrived, they just did it. And then I said, go into the kitchen. If it's in cabinets, it's because we'd already purged the kitchen, so everything that was in the kitchen was moving, which was like plates and
Nice.
things.
Yeah.
And so they just packed it all. And when they arrived, they were out in 3 hours. They had everything done, unpacked in the
Okay,
shelves, and I was like, that was worth it.
how was your estimate? Because I don't know if I would be very good at estimating how much cubic meters or square feet or whatever it is they're using to calculate by having things in cabinets and stuff. So like, where was your estimate of what you thought you had versus what you ended up having?
So I paid for a cubic footage, right? A
Okay.
certain amount of the container. And I literally measured it out in the corner of the house. And I was like, that's what it is.
But you still
That's
had
the
stuff in
space.
cabinets in the kitchen and stuff, you
Yeah, but
said.
I could know. I mean, I know how much plates. It wasn't like I had hundreds of things. It was
Okay.
like it was our plates that I wanted to move. Like there was certain like I mean, I knew what it was. So I was like, well, that's probably like two boxes. So I could
I
visualize
see.
that space in the corner of the room of that's how much cubic footage we've
So
got
you had
going.
everything in the corner of the room except for like the kitchen.
So it was a really easy job
Yeah.
for them because they literally didn't have to go
That's the
around the whole
easiest
house.
job they ever had.
Yeah.
Oh my
They
goodness. Yeah.
literally were like, really? Really? I mean, they were definitely like, wow, this was the best because
Yeah.
they were out of our house in LA in 2 or 3 hours. It was
Right.
done. And then we were still in the middle of purging. And I was like, well, if it didn't make it on the truck now, it's definitely a
That's it.
purge, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
And I think as far as like for other people that are doing it, I think I just want to point out too, like think about where you're going. Like so we were moving,
mhm,
COVID was about to start. We didn't know how bad that was going to be, but we were pretty confident that shipping things was going to be a complete nightmare and that would have been.
mhm,
I don't know, we might still not have
totally.
our stuff. If it probably would have been pushed over the side of a boat several years ago
Right.
if we had actually shipped anything. And think about where you're going. Like, are you moving from a massive house into an apartment in the city? Like, so you also like think about how much stuff you actually need and how much room you're going to have here, because you might very
Right.
easily be going from a house in America. Apartments are bigger. Everything's bigger there generally.
hmm
So you're
Rooms are bigger.
probably
I mean,
yeah, just
the,
the rooms. You're
I
probably
have,
going to be moving to a
yeah.
smaller place in some regard here.
Right. Like it might have more square footage, but your bedroom's going to be a lot smaller. You're like,
Right.
I
That's true.
mean, our apartment is twice the size of our old place in LA, and our bedrooms are a third of the size. So
Right.
we could never have fitted any of the
Yeah.
furniture in. So I also, like, I didn't move furniture, and I did exactly that. I was like, where are we moving, and what do I want? I don't want the furniture. It's all old, you know.
And you
And
rented
I
a
was like, well,
place before you moved. Some people are coming here and they haven't rented a place yet, so they don't even know
right.
what they're going to be getting. So then you really
Right.
need to purge down, I think, to make sure. I've seen posts of people being like, "Yeah, we got all our stuff, and these are the things that don't fit in our apartment. Who
Right.
wants them?" Well, they've paid to have those shipped over, so that's kind of a
Right.
waste, right? So
Right.
have a good think
And
about
and if
that.
you're gonna move a container, look at the cost because it really was. It was a decision. It was not that hard of a decision, but it was something that if I had more things, it would have been a deciding factor. From the price of renting like a third of the container to the whole container was only a price difference of like 4,000. And if I was going to know I was moving into a big place,
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have spent the 4,000 and moved
Just
so much more
moved
stuff over,
everything.
because I would, there's so much I had to, that I rebought here that I'm like, not a lot, but for that extra 4,000, you're like, oh, and I can fit some couches or grandma's antique thing that I really don't want to get rid of, and it will
Mm-hmm.
fit into the place we're moving. Those are that kind of cost risk analysis. But also, I will say, and I think you would, I mean, you obviously have proved this to be true as well, is that when you get rid of so much of your life, it is so freeing. I brought the stuff that I wanted. So glad I did. And I am so glad I let go of all the things I did. There's nothing here I wish I would have purged. And there's like three things I wish I would have kept. And that's a wonderful mix
Yeah,
of, you know what I mean? Like
that
that
is
was
really
like,
nice, and you're right. I mean, 4,000. If you were to spend that, you might not be able to buy those items, like that many items again. So
right,
you will be spending more than 4,000 to refurnish a place if you haven't bought that over for sure.
right.
And I think to that point, let's talk about like the actual traveling and the time. Like we obviously did that very differently because we did not travel light. So we did not reduce the
No.
stress of the traveling part. We had 12 massive suitcases. If you imagine those, we're not talking about like, we're talking about that they were gigantic duffel bags that I had got on Amazon that I don't know what they're
Hmm.
designed for, but that's what we use
Oh,
them
like the
for.
ones that like hold Christmas trees, like the ones that they were those
Yeah,
size
or
kind of.
several bodies, depending on what you're
Yeah,
doing with
yeah.
your life. So we had
By
12
the way,
of
there's a lot
those.
of holes in her backyard. Her yard isn't
Yes.
even. I'm just saying. We know where those bodies are.
So we had those with us. So we did not travel light, but I would imagine that if you are actually shipping things, that to try and travel with as the little, I mean, you're going to need things while you're waiting for your shipment, but travel with as little as you can because that's going to be stressful to travel with tons and tons of suitcases if you're
Yeah.
also shipping things. Not
I mean,
necessary.
we came with what, 7 suitcases, 3 backpacks, 2 cats, 2 kids. So we just had enough that we could manage. Any more than that,
Mm-hmm.
we ran out of arms and things to
Right,
stack on
think about
top
how
of
many
each other,
arms you
right?
have. Yeah. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
traveling with little kids, you probably have a lot of stuff that goes with the little kids as well. And I don't know, I've seen people mailing things and I don't know like how whether that's something that you can do as well that maybe gets to you a little quicker than the shipment, just little boxes of maybe kids clothes or something. You know what I mean? Like something maybe you don't need
Right.
that right away. So that's also
But it is
something.
very expensive to ship things on their own versus
Mm-hmm.
cargo shipping. And also, we should know is that you have a year to bring your stuff over. I don't know about for you, but for the visa people, you have a year to bring stuff over
I don't know
tax free.
because we didn't do it. Yeah.
So you didn't do it. You didn't even look into it. But you have a year. So if you can have like more cargo sent, or other ways to send stuff
Mm-hmm.
by cargo, right? If you can still
Right.
send one box by cargo shipment versus using the post office, which would be much more expensive. You can do it a cargo and wait 2 months for it.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
have a year to get it here. So that is something
Yeah.
else to think
I'm not
about.
suggesting I'm not suggesting shipping loads of stuff, but I'm thinking like if you've got little kids, for instance, it might make sense to sort of once you've landed to have someone in your family or something sort of ship you a few boxes with kids' clothes and things that maybe you don't need to be dragging
Right.
all of that with you through the airport. If that's something that's helpful, there are other
Right.
ways.
I think I see a lot of people use something called like ship my bag or
Yes,
something
that
like
one.
that.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And it's like the airlines bring it over. It's
yeah,
so
it's
you
some
pay like
kind of
100 for a suitcase or something.
exactly. It's some kind of discounted like bag shipment, and I think something like that could be helpful to if you feel like you need some extra things, but you don't need them right away, or you don't know where you're going to be. You're
Right.
coming over, and you're what we did. We went into an Airbnb while we looked for a place to rent. So if you're doing that, you don't necessarily need all your stuff in that Airbnb. Maybe you have enough stuff for a
Right.
month, which is basically all you needed for like a vacation. And then once you move,
Mm-hmm.
you need your actual stuff, your
Right.
stuff.
All right. So now we've talked about moving your stuff. You got to put it. So what about housing? What do you have to say
What
about
are you
that?
gonna say? Well, as I just mentioned, we did Airbnb and then we rented. So that worked for us because I think it's nice, unless you've spent a lot of time where you're moving to. We didn't know
Mm-hmm.
the area that well to be like, oh, this is where we want to live and all this. So we did the Airbnb, and then we looked for a place to rent, and then we rented for a year, and then we bought a house. So we wanted to
Right.
feel more, in tune with what we were doing in order to do that. So that was what we decided to do, and what you did it slightly differently.
Slightly different. I mean, we're still renting, but I wanted to. We just were lucky that we, through Facebook, someone knew someone that knew someone that was leaving because I had made a post. I need an apartment. Anyone got
And it
realtors to send me?
worked, which is
And it worked.
shocking.
And now my dear, who's now a dear friend, Melissa, who was a stranger then, said, we know a family that's leaving and that apartment's going to be available when you're arriving. Do you want the info? So we got that. We were very lucky to have this place sorted out. And I had a lease signed in April for a place that was, we were moving in July. It was a very lucky situation. But if you don't, I'm also going to say, if you don't put yourself out there, nothing good's going to
That's
come back to
true.
you.
Yeah, that's
So
very true.
it sounds like a pipe dream, but really it happened. And if it happened for me, it's going to happen for somebody else too. I mean, that's how the world works. So,
And you can definitely come here and buy something immediately, and maybe you
right.
do that from abroad. Some people do that. If you need a mortgage, you're going to have a hard time getting a mortgage without showing a local income. So you will need to probably
Right.
be here for some time before that is a possibility. So that might be also another reason, depending on how you're coming here, if you're going to have income, that's
And
for you
I
to
will say
sort
that's
out.
part of the reason why we haven't bought, or I haven't bought yet, is because the visa we're on and my income and all of that stuff. Here, the banks are also, if you have a relationship, so it's kind of old school in the olden timey days. So my bank is like, we don't even give loans to people until they've been, for foreigners until they've been with us for 3 years. And a lot of banks, it's until you're a tax resident. But my bank was also like, wink, wink, we're more liberal at that 3 year mark because we know you.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
may not have you may not have a job, but you have this income that we can't look at before, like passive income, but we can look at it now because we see the money coming in out of your account. We have our eyes on you and know what kind of risks we can take. So
Right.
that was kind of what happened. That's what's happening with us. So hopefully next summer we'll be putting money down on something. So
Yeah,
that's where
and
we're
then
going to
that,
be,
which is good. That would be exciting. So and also read the contracts. Read contracts for your rentals. There's short-term rentals and long-term rentals, and there's
Right.
contracts for everything. And I've seen some funny things on contracts. So make sure you take those contracts. If you don't speak Spanish, translate them, and make sure that everything on that contract looks reasonable. And they do have a thing here, and I don't know, especially in more touristy areas of Spain, where they can move somebody out of a long-term rental to rent it higher in the summer. Now, I don't know that that's happened to anybody, but I've seen it on contracts. So we had a contract for a rental that we were interested in, and when we read that contract, we were like, no, we don't want to move in the summer if you find someone that will pay more,
Right. So
because
that's
we're
like a
living
short-term.
here.
Right. That's weird. That's weird that that's legal. I wonder how that is now. But I know that when you do sign a long-term contract, so people should know, it's for 5 years. So your rent will go up every year. That's decided by the government, but they can't kick you out for 5 years. And at 5 years, your lease is renegotiated. So like you could say, hey, there's an economy crashing. I'm paying less, and your landlord could say yes or no. The landlord says, I'm going to charge more, or we're going to keep it the way it is. But that's at 5 years. So it becomes a new lease at 5 years, and all the terms can change at that point. But before then, you're where you are. They can't kick you
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah, so
That's
just
good.
definitely have a plan for what you're going to do. I think all of the mishmash of the different things that we've done both have worked quite well for both of us. So just whatever everyone feels comfortable with.
And my plan was, I didn't know. Wanted to try to find a place before we move, but if not, my plan was we run an Airbnb for a month and we figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what people can do.
It's easy to
But
do. So since we just talked about mortgage and stuff, we can just dip into finances, I guess, quickly.
dip our toes into the jellyfished waters of
Yes.
finances. So.
Exactly. This is really more about getting bank accounts and things like that. So everyone's finances are different, obviously. Just make sure, I think there's a little bit of a preconceived idea that Spain is so cheap that you don't need any money to live here. And I just want to say you will have your life here, and you need money
Right.
to live here. So, you need to have a very long-term plan if your plan is to live here long-term.
Right.
It's my advice. I know that sounds stupid, but it is, if you're coming here and you're allowed to work, you might make the same amount of money, or you might make less money, or whatever it is, but your taxes are going to be high. So it cuts
Right.
into a lot of the money that you make. So, just check exchange rates and all these things and make sure that you're actually making the money that you need to live the way you want to live.
Right. And the exchange rates change, and right now they're a lot different than we were when we moved here.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then
affecting my finances. Right? I mean, it really is. So and I didn't even think about that, right? That was
yeah.
one thing I didn't think about, is how important the exchange rate is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then if you're a credit card person that uses credit cards for miles, I think that's not really a thing here so much. So if you're trying to keep your credit
not like
cards
the
in your
States.
American bank accounts while you're here, you need an address in America to keep all that stuff functioning there. So that's
Right.
something you just need to plan for.
And make sure your credit card has no for transaction fees. And I'm going to give a little side note. Make sure you check your statements every month, because I had a credit card just last month change its terms without me
Oh,
knowing,
wow.
and I got a whole month's worth of foreign transaction fees. Thankfully, I cried on the phone and they reversed it, but I will never use that credit card again.
Right?
And they're like, "We sent it in your e-statement." I'm like, "Who reads an
Who reads
e-statement, right?"
that,
Like,
right? Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. And then you can open a Wise account, which is sort of an international account and a great way to transfer money from different countries to euros. But
and
you
if you're
won't
gonna
but you won't be able to open a bank account in Spain without being here. So if you come here, you can open it while you're here visiting and then go back and stuff. But you need to be here to open a Spanish one.
Right. And if you're going to open an account here when you come, like, for a visit before you moved here, it's going to be a foreign account. It's going to have completely different terms. It's going to have different fees. But once you've arrived in your visa and you have all your numbers from the state, your IDs and all that stuff, they can flip that to a local account, which then changes terms and fees and stuff. So it
Yeah,
can be done. But Wise is a great way, especially if you're trying to run a place before, because you can just transfer the money into the bank accounts of the people you're dealing with
exactly.
without having a bank account here
Yeah.
right away.
And we
right?
didn't see any difference between our non-resident and resident account when we switched it. So that's gonna change bank to bank. What the difference was is that we couldn't open a Bizum account, which is how you basically text people money here.
It's the Zelle.
It's the Zelle,
Zelle of
yeah,
Spain.
that type
Yeah.
of thing. It's Bizum here. We couldn't have that on a non-resident account, so that was
Gotcha.
what happened. So we switched it, and we were like, oh, we didn't even know, and then it didn't really change much. But that was something you couldn't do on a foreign account. So I think that covers
Right.
finances. Everyone on their own.
That's enough. I got hives. I don't want to talk about finances anymore.
No.
So I guess we should talk about, we've purged. Now we should talk about the humans. Not that we're purging humans, but like we are abandoning people, right? So
Absolutely,
we're abandoning
yeah.
our lives. So I think that you have a goodbye list of what your life is going to be, right? Like what you're leaving, your friends, your holidays, your tradition, all that stuff changes. You can bring your traditions with you. But it was, we had going away events, or made sure I don't even want to say events. There was a whole checklist of people that I hadn't seen in years that I'm like, I need to have lunch with this person before I leave. So there was a bunch of people that I was like, over the next 3-4 months, I'm making sure I have lunch with X, Y's, and Z's.
And
so I can say
maybe
goodbye
where
and
you want to
that
have
one.
lunch and all these things, because you can
Oh, yeah.
combine the friend with either a place that you've gone to together, or something else that you want to do, and start combining things a little bit as
Right.
well. Make it easier.
I totally did. I'm like, I haven't eaten at that restaurant. Do you want to leave it?
Right.
You want to go there? Because I'm leaving in like 3 weeks and I want to say I've been there. Right.
Exactly. And then we did sort of, I mean, because of Xena, we did, obviously we said goodbye to people sort of separately, but we also ended up having a couple of big get-togethers in various places as well. So yeah, I think it's nice. We also moved some of our friends here with us, so that was nice. That's not always an option. But
Yeah, I
we can do
didn't bring
that
anyone
too.
with me. I will say, family and friends that are not on board or getting their emotions because they're going to miss you, you kind of have to put your blinders on and not hear that, and also respect that they're going to miss you, but don't let them get inside your soul and heart and second guess what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, take it
And-
as an indication maybe that they love you and they're just going to miss you, like you said, rather than taking
Right.
offense. Because we had a lot of hard goodbyes, and it was all good while we were planning, but when it really got down to the wire, it was like, oh, like I'm not going to see this person maybe ever again or for a while.
Right.
It's hard, and it is really, really, that is a hard thing to do. So it's good to plan those events so that it's maybe a little easier on everybody, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I was funny side note, my dear friend Erin, who's like, I don't cry, and she's like, I don't know, I was like emotional the night before. We were staying with her right before we left, and so she was, saying goodbye to us as the big suburban Uber came with our to collect
Right.
our suitcases and bodies, right? And she's like, yeah, don't get upset if I don't cry tomorrow. I don't cry. And as we were pulling away, tears were coming down her face, and
Oh.
I was like, oh, she's crying, which made me cry even more.
Oh my
So
God, of course. I'm like crying thinking about it now. But if you have kids, you're gonna have to put on a bit of a cold heart at that moment. I mean, not with your kids,
mhm,
but watching your kids say goodbye to their friends, it's like, oh my
right,
God, like you that's the point where you'll be like, I think we should cancel this whole thing. Like,
right. My oldest was so stoic trying to be like I'm for this move, and when we
hmm.
got in the suburban we saw Erin crying and we're going to the airport, and she was just looking out the window and there was like tears and she refused to look at me, and I was like, it's okay, you
Oh,
don't have to be like so
like,
excited, like you don't
right,
have to be happy, like you're allowed to be sad, like we're doing this,
right.
but have your emotions, girl,
Yeah, you
and
could be
then
sad now and then happy later too, because
right.
I think what was hard for all of us, like you said, was all of our friends crying. And then, Xena had a couple of friends that are much more overtly emotional in general, and those kids are
Hmm.
not hiding it to try and keep anyone's feelings together, right? They're kids.
Right.
And we were
Right.
like, her friends were 6, 7 years old at that time. So I mean they're just like flat out in tears. And you're like, oh my God, like this is terrible, but what are we doing? But
Right.
then you could
Right.
get it, you get over, then you can be excited later, and your kids will keep those friendships going because those are the good friendships, and they'll keep them through their, communication methods that you have now that we never had years and years ago.
Right. I was gonna say when that goes into you have to rebuild all this when you arrive. And so, building a network when you get here, I mean, it seems scary. Every move seems scary, and you know what? Your life will rebuild, and it rebuilds very quickly. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before these Facebook groups, LinkedIn, all that stuff. And then when you get here, the schools may have WhatsApp groups that they can lead you into, but Facebook people will tell you what WhatsApp groups, and there's groups for like meeting teenagers and expat hangouts, and we had friends, like we had dinners out with someone named Tanya right away, we had my friend Melissa, we had a bunch of people right away that we're still friends with and still get with, and it continues to grow. So don't be scared by that. You will rebuild unless you're a hermit, and I don't
But
know
well,
what to tell
that's
you,
true. We
but
can't help it if you're a hermit. But I mean, we had already connected with the school WhatsApp group and had been invited to a birthday party for the Saturday after we arrived, which ended up not happening. But we
hmm,
did, we were, and that was something that gave us, I think, a lot of comfort before we left, to have some of these
right.
things set up before we left. So we didn't feel like we were moving into a void. We were moving into things that were already set up to do. And if you can't figure out people to meet immediately, which I think is very easy nowadays, set up activities to do. Like you're
Hmm.
already planning to go to this museum and this thing or visit this town, and just have stuff that you're doing so that you're not just
Buy
landing
the
and then
tickets
going,
to a
oh, what?
museum yeah, buy the tickets to the museum before you've left, so you have something to do on Friday,
Exactly. That's
right?
exactly it.
So
Yeah. And then, so to that point, number 7, by the way, because we haven't been numbering them, but this is a top 10 list. So number 7
right.
is something that will help you to get acclimated, excuse me, is to learn Spanish. It doesn't have to be a lot. Learn some basic phrases like where is, can I have, just some basic things if you don't have any Spanish.
Hmm.
That would be my advice.
I agree, and I've said it before. Depending on where you move in Spain, the level of English varies. And I was warned that in Valencia, no one speaks English. And the reality was, once I chose my 5 broken words that I arrived with, my hideous words, they found someone that spoke, or suddenly they spoke English, or they had some words, right? It opens them up because they're like, oh, you're trying. So you know what? I'm comfortable to try with you,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
they're also feeling it's not that they don't want to speak English or they think you need to learn their language. They're also embarrassed about how they sound. Just remember
Right.
that, right? Like,
And they're also embarrassed by how you sound in Spanish. So they'll be
right.
like, I'll speak English with you. But don't
Yeah,
don't
I'm
assume
better than
people are
him.
gonna speak English for sure. So just learn some basic phrases. I mean, this is what I do when I travel to other countries if I'm on vacation. I mean,
Right.
just learn your basics. And that goes as well to just kind of having a little bit of a understanding of the local culture and the etiquette of where you're going, so that you feel like you're ready to jump into that. And I think that all has to do
Right.
with the comfort. So number 8 is understanding some of the Spanish culture, which is what we're basically moving here for. So everybody
Right.
probably already understands all of that.
Right. So, that's the basics. Siesta, seeing people drinking wine at 10 a.m., knowing
Yeah.
that, the restaurants, it's not bad service. It's just not the service you're used to, right? They're not going to give you a check. They're not trying to get you off the table. And
Mm-hmm.
if you want to check, you're going to be waving your arms around and they may ignore you. And that's not service. You're weird to them thinking that you would want your check so quickly. Like it just
Yeah, absolutely.
it,
Because it's absolutely fine for people to sit at a table all day. Like they're not coming to
right.
you to be. They're not giving you anything to be rude. They're thinking that you just want to hang out there, which is what everyone's doing.
Right.
So table hovering, just as a PSA, is not a thing here. Like if
Right.
somebody wants to sit there after they finish their meal and they're going to sit there for another 2 hours, totally fine.
Right.
so,
Right.
so that's okay. And then also, if you're coming to the Valencia area, we must prepare you, if you haven't listened to our Fies episodes, fireworks and firecrackers are a humongous thing here. So just get on board. It is loud.
Right. It is loud. So that month is loud, but then there are like fireworks and masclettes year round on random days. We've said it a million
Mm-hmm.
times and we'll say it a million times more because there's a random day and I'll be like, Tanya, what again? For what reason? Do you know what the holiday is? And she's like, I
I
don't
don't know.
know. There's no holiday.
Because we can see the fireworks going on in various parts of the city and the suburbs around from where we live, and I'll be like texting Gaetano. I'll be like, what's going on today? And he's like, I don't know. But you have the insight
Yeah.
into the websites that usually will tell me what's
Usually,
going on.
yes.
I love it from here, but it is constant. I would say every Saturday night, no, there's at least a fireworks display somewhere, and then you've got kids, running around with things.
Right.
So number 9, phones. What did you do? And then I'll tell you what we did.
So what we did is because my oldest had a phone, so we had two phone numbers. So her phone number was immaterial to the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I I ported my phone number because my phone number was important because I was keeping American bank accounts because I have to. I have to keep American credit cards, so I needed an American number. And I needed relatives that don't have cell phones, and so I still have relatives that don't have cell phones and things
Right.
that are using
Yeah.
landlines. So I needed a number, so I ported my phone number with Google, and we kept my daughter's cell phone plan. And then once we are, and also what I did is I already had WhatsApp, so I have my regular WhatsApp is still on my phone, and that's my American phone number. So that is still there. And then when
Mm-hmm.
we moved to Spain, I then got my phone because we also needed her phone because once we arrived, we needed to call Ubers and so. I mean, I just wanted us to be
Right.
connected as soon as not looking for
I think
Wi-Fi,
that's the
right?
important thing, is that you have some form of communication when you land. There's a
Right.
myriad of things you can do once you're here in regards to phone, but getting yourself in a situation where you are semi-connected here when you actually land at the airport.
Right. And that was important. So then, but the funny side story is we ran it. I didn't have the cab apps on her phone, so I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, how are you going to go?" I forgot to move apps. So then, when we arrived here, day two, I got my Spanish phone number on my phone, and and then what you can do on your phone, people don't know, on WhatsApp, you can have two WhatsApp apps on your phone, one business and one the personal one. So the regular people one is my American number and the business one is my Spanish number. So I have both
Mm.
WhatsApps on my phone and
But
I
they
have
need
both
to be a
numbers on my phone
business.
as
They
well.
need to be a business and a personal. You can't have two personal
Right,
numbers.
well, because your phone
Right.
won't load the app twice, right? So
Right.
they have two separate apps that you load.
Got
So
it. Yeah.
that's how that was worked. Then I canceled my daughter's. I will say it was a pain canceling my daughter's phone number from overseas. It happened, but I
Okay.
was on hold several times to several people
Forever.
to get it
Yeah.
done. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
a pain.
we had a we came and we were planning on just getting here and then going somewhere and getting a chip, but COVID happened and we ended up not everything was closed and we couldn't do it.
Right.
So that's how I ended up on Lobster, which is they'll mail you the chip, which is quite useful. And
Mm.
then that's actually an account for me, which is good because I go to England a lot, and that one works in England. So you think about what you want to do, as if you're not just going to stay in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might want some kind of service that, I mean, I can call to America for free as part of my plan. I can call to England as part of my plan. My phone works in England, but it doesn't work in America. So, but I'd get
Okay.
free calls to America. So that was a good plan for me. And then Jawad's phone, we got as part of our Wi-Fi. His plan we got as part of our Wi-Fi scenario. A lot of the Wi-Fi's can come with a free phone number, and so he always has
Or
that
vice
one.
versa.
Yeah,
And vice versa, because our cell phone is our Wi-Fi, our cable, everything is a
right.
bundle
It's
deal.
kind of connected. So whichever one you get
yeah.
first, you might end up with the other one. They can be
Right,
connected,
exactly.
basically. But when we first arrived, we didn't have any service at all, and thank goodness the Google Maps was working regardless of the fact that we had no plan on our phone, which was thank goodness, because it was somehow working. I don't know how. So yeah.
Right.
And I tried to port my American number. It didn't work. And when my number got bought, I think, by somebody else, it disappeared. So that was a short-term, badly done situation for me.
You didn't plan ahead properly for that.
You do. Definitely plan ahead if you're trying to keep your US number. Make sure it's ported properly.
Yeah, the porting the number has to happen on U.S. soil. I've seen people say they were able to do it with a VPN, but you have to have a really good VPN for it to work, I think, because they know all these. They know all the VPN addresses.
Just make sure it's done
So-
properly. I turn my phone number into a Google number. Like I put it there, but I obviously didn't do something correctly because it ended up getting thrown away.
You probably didn't like click the confirmation email or
Yeah,
something.
I don't
like
know.
that,
Like,
yeah.
it worked
Or
for
you had
like
to go into your Google account or something. There's something you have to do.
It worked
yeah.
for like a year, and then it stopped working. So it was something weird happened, but I didn't really need it by then. So
Well, if you weren't using it too, they will cancel it if you're not using it. I had another Google number that got canceled that for like a business that I was doing, and I didn't use it, and they sent me an email. By the way, we canceled that number because you haven't sent one text message.
okay,
Or phone
so that's
call.
good to know
Because it
too.
was-
Like, make sure you're using the number that you've ported. So
Yeah.
number 10, finally, preparing emotionally. I mean, this is, I think we would expect to have in the process of moving, and once you're here, some kind of, you're excited and then you're stressed. And I have found personally that those emotions feel very similar, and it's hard to know sometimes when you're having both what's going on. You're just in a very high emotional state of like doing
right.
everything and planning and excited, but then you got so many things to do, but then you got things to plan, and you're just like, you're gonna explode, you know?
Right. And before it is so stressful and so crazy, and stressful also as it's crazy stressful, right? I mean, I wasn't like pulling my hair and I'm never going to accomplish this stressed out. I was like, are all my crossing all my T's and I's, and oh my God, and I can't believe we're doing this, like stressed out. And then, once we got on the boat to come here, like it all washed off of me, and then just smiles were on my face. And I do see a lot of people post like they have a honeymoon period that wears off. And I see people, you know, struggling with that. So be prepared that, you might 6 months, if you've left a family and friends, you're going to miss them. For some people, like for me, we didn't have a lot that we had friends that were leaving, but my parents had passed away. So I wasn't stuff to bring me tied to anywhere. So I still think I'm in a honeymoon period, but reality does set in. So
You did it in a very interesting way. If people haven't listened to how we moved here, I mean, you spent 2 weeks on a boat, which I think is a very good decompressing scenario. That's not how most people are going to do it, but I think that was a really smart way to do that, because you've left and you're decompressing,
Right.
We were moving here and we were leaving really good friends, but most of our family is over here on this side of the world. So for us too, I feel like we're also kind of still in the honeymoon period, because we're feeling very happy and lucky to be here. And that emotion for me has always stayed. And I've also moved a lot. So I'm American, but I wasn't from America. So, that also for me is something where I'm also moving back kind of to where more closer to where I grew up.
Yeah.
So it's different, but I've also heard people having that emotion. And I think if you're leaving family, just make sure you're prepared for some emotions once you've got here and you've been here for a little bit, that you might start to miss home a little bit. That also, I think, does go away a little bit too. definitely we've talked about how the things that we missed initially have kind of started to
Right.
wane, and we're like, whatever,
Right.
right? So it does, your emotions change.
And the world is much smaller. Don't forget that everyone's FaceTime. I mean, I have friends I FaceTime all the time, and it's like they're in my living room. And one of my friends has a
true.
white, like a white house, and my house is very white, all the walls. So when I'm talking to her on FaceTime, I'm like, it looks like you're in my room because it's still a white
Are we
background
next to
behind you,
each
behind
other?
my phone, and behind you. Yeah.
So keep up with your, and you'll find, also you will, I hate to say, you will find out who your really good friends are, because those are the people
Right.
that really do stay in touch, and people will come visit because you're in an exciting place as well. So
Yeah, you'll get a lot of visitors, and also the people you find out who's going to stay in touch. But also remember, time zone, the time change affects how you can communicate with people as well. So friends that I used to talk to all the time, I don't talk to that much at all, and they're still really good friends. But like they have jobs, and when they're going to and from in the schedule, we can never like it's just
So you
impossible
came
to
from the West
connect.
Coast, so that does make a difference.
Yeah.
If you're coming from the East Coast, you might find that aspect of it a little bit easier.
A little easier,
but you
yeah.
still have the weekends. But anyway, I think moving abroad is a big step, I think, for a lot of people. And for everybody, it's going to come with a lot of organization and planning, regardless of whether it's a big step for you or not. So have a sense of humor about it. That's my final advice. Have a sense of humor.
I agree. And whether or not it goes smoothly, it will get done and it will be
Yes.
over and you will be
This is
there.
true.
You will be where you're going.
And
Eventually
you'll have good
get where you're going.
stories.
Yes.
At least. So those are our 10 tips, I guess, for being prepared. A little boy girl scout situation here.
Well, Tanya, it's time to say goodbye yet again, but I will talk to you in a couple days with some Poco a Poco.
Yes. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, can't get enough of us? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Ospain Podcast.
And on our website, ourspain.com, which we will be updating with exciting new things as we grow.
We would love for you to message us with any topics you would like to hear about.
See you next time.
Bye.